Episode 11 of the Monday Morning Worship Leader. 5 ways to grow that ensemble.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures, praise His glory. Praise Him, all glory. Praise Him, because praise Him is on. Praise Him is on. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
Hey, it's Brother John here, and it's good to be here with you today on the Monday Morning Worship Leader. I don't know how Sunday went for you. Sunday always seems to go pretty well for us. We have our hitches, we have things that happen, but by and large, we have a great team that really does help in worship. And so it makes Sunday such a beautiful time of seeing God's people all working together. Now, if you've been tuning in to this podcast oh, by the way, we are now firmly in the double digits in this podcast. This is the 11th podcast. I'm so excited about that. That just makes me happy. And so I just look forward to the weeks and the months and the years that we get to have this conversation about my favorite subject, and that is the subject of worship, and it encompasses so much. But I wanted to talk to you again. If you know me, if you've been tuning in for the past 10 episodes, now 11, you know that I'm an inclusivist. I like to encourage people to serve with their gifts and to be able to use them for the Lord. Not only just a couple of people that are very talented, but I want to use as many people as I possibly can. So I've had this kind of philosophy for many, many years, and to have this philosophy and have it work for you, you have to have some ways to build ensembles, or else everything around you fails. And that's one of the reasons I do believe that we see a lot of churches today with just being led by small groups, because it's easy to manage, it's not as intimidating, and I get it. But if you're like me and you're wanting to take a leap and you're wanting to grow some ensembles, then I just do want to talk to you about that and give you 5 ways. These aren't really even tips. They're actually, I think of them as 5 philosophies in growing ensembles. And so with that, we're going to get right to it now. 1. The first thing that I want you to think about when you're trying to grow an ensemble is it is not a passive work. It is an active work. You're going to have the initial startup, but then it is still active. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in point number 5. But this is not a passive work. It's not going to just happen. Nothing just happens in this busy life anymore. You have to kind of make things happen. You have to stir up an excitement, and you have to keep things in front of your people all the time. It is an active thing. And so as you're thinking about this ministry, you've got to, first of all, take stock and see, do I have the kind of time and energy that it is going to take for the long haul to keep this ensemble going and to continue it and make it better and make it shine? And that's really the big question that you have to think about. Not, can I spend the next 2 weeks getting this ready and then explode and then not worry about it anymore? Unfortunately, that just simply does not work in this day and age. So the first one, not a passive work, an active one. 2, you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent in your meetings, consistent in your music, consistent in a time every week, or however your group is going to do this, so that it can go. And honestly, once a week is, I think, the sweet spot. So it can go in the calendar. It becomes part of some person's weekly liturgy, life liturgy, where they are constantly going, okay, I have that 7:30 practice. It's a non-negotiable. I need to be there. And so you need to keep that consistent no matter what. And I'm going to say this too. You need to be consistently having new music in front of them. You need to consistently be working on things. You need to consistently have goals in front of them. Everything needs to be consistent. You also need to start consistently, end consistently. Your folks do not need a surprise ending of, oh, we're just going to work on this till we're done with it. No. For instance, I will tell you, choir rehearsal on Wednesday nights starts at 7 o'clock. Choir rehearsal on Wednesday nights ends at 8 o'clock. There have been a couple of times I've ended at 8:02 and I've apologized. We end at 8 o'clock. It's very important that I get my people out because my people have given me an hour of their time. So I need to be, number 2, consistent in my approach to this growing ensemble. You need to create an ongoing growth infrastructure. You have to think about, first of all, what you have now, but you need to stay one step ahead. If you truly think this is going to be a growing ensemble, then you don't need to plan next year for it to be the same size. You need to have that next step in front of you, one step ahead of the growth curve of your ensemble. You're going to be forgiven if you have like a ballooning moment, but you need to be able to rein that back in and be able to keep it under control. Growth infrastructure that would be helpful, are things like constant contact for email, planning center online for communications and for just for people control. Having music, again, going back to number 2, but having music constantly in front of your people, having this constantly happening, this infrastructure planning for growth. I can tell you something right now. I'm having a problem, and this is one of those that it sounds like a brag, and it sounds like some people saying, oh, well, that's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem. My problem right now is I have an orchestra that's growing by about one person a week, at least lately. It just keeps growing and growing, and I am running out of room on the platform. And because of the chemistry of the group, I'm personally not ready to divide it or take shifts or anything like that. I just don't think that would help the chemistry of this group. So these are some things that we have to deal with, some things that we have to pray about, some things these are the things you need to be thinking of when you're not at work and when you're off hours. This is the stuff that should occupy you. What is my ongoing growth infrastructure? Make this a year-long focus. I have read this and I think it applies very well. If you're wanting to start a new group, only start one thing a year. So, for instance, say you're wanting to start a youth ensemble. Don't start any other group that year. Just that one ensemble. Really give it a chance to breathe, to begin, and to start really getting its feet underneath it before you think about starting another ensemble. Last year for me, it was praise team. Believe it or not, we really didn't have a praise team at Parkway Baptist until I started one. But this year, this past year was the year of the praise team. And I really just dedicated a lot of my time and effort into making that more of a consistent practice, scheduling people, rehearsing people. And so you need to think about that. What is the 1-year ensemble that you need to do? And it could be an existing ensemble, right? It could be like, okay, this year is going to be the year of the choir. I'm going to invest more time in this group this year. And do I have one for this year? No, I don't. So I need to be thinking, again, where am I going to put all my eggs in what basket? Not all of them, but a lot of them, a lot of energy. But don't start anything more than one ensemble a year. Just keep it to one and then really build that up. 5. And now number 5, and that is, this is like a garden. And that's the best metaphor that I can give you as far as a choir, an orchestra, praise team. It's like a garden. You are constantly working in it. I used to think that a garden was, and my wife gives me this inspiration because my wife is an amazing gardener. But my wife is in the garden every day. My wife spends the winter planning. My wife spends the winter growing up seedlings. My wife spends the winter getting things ready. And then in the summer, she is out in the garden every day. And if you weed every day, if you catch these little weeds and things when they're small, they're easy to take care of. If you catch little problems every day in your ensemble, every rehearsal in your ensemble, and think ahead in your ensemble to the next rehearsal, then it makes things a lot easier. It doesn't all fall on you at once and just nail you. Think of it like a garden. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And so be at it every day, just a little bit, taking care of it, cleaning it. Okay, so here are the 5 things, the 5 philosophies that you need to think about if you're wanting to build and grow ensembles. 1, it's not a passive work, it's an active one. 2, consistent meetings, consistent music. 3, create an ongoing growth infrastructure. 4, make a year-long focus. 5, it's like a garden. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Now you have these 5, but I want to talk about one overarching philosophy that touches all of them and that you need to do all of the time. You probably guessed it. Pray without ceasing. Pray over these ensembles. Pray for them. Pray to the Lord to find out if that's the direction you need to go. Even if it seems like it's a good thing to do, is it God's thing to do? And so you need to pray every step of the way. You also need to pray at a fairly regular basis. You need to pray, is this ensemble still fulfilling the need that our church has? Is it still fulfilling a ministry? And so you really have to think about that too. But bathe all 5 of these and everything that you do in ministry in prayer. And that's a good word. Now it's time for a good word. And I was wondering what book would work very well with what I just spoke of, with starting and building up your ensembles. And there aren't a lot of good books for the 21st century for growing ensembles that I have found. Maybe if you found something, you can email me and let me know. I would love to read it and love to review it. But there is a good book that was written about 15 years ago that is secular and that has nothing to do with music. And it's called Tribes by Seth Godin. It's a short, small book. I read it about once a year. And as I've been reviewing it, I'm going, I need to read it again. It's been about 18 months. I read it over and over and over. This book is about building your tribe, building the people around you, growing a tribe of people that will be very dedicated to your cause. And that's what we have to have in ministry. We have to have a tribe of people. And what he does is he points out 3 necessities of building the tribe, and that is the desire to change things, connecting a tribe, and the willingness to lead. If you'll just go to the show notes and click on the Amazon link, I have it there in the show notes, Tribes by Seth Godin. Cheap book. You will not regret buying it. And that's it for the Monday Morning Worship Leader. I'm so glad you joined me today, and I'm so glad to be here with you. Remember, I have a blog site. It's biblicaltrumpets.org. I have about a weekly blog. Sometimes it's every other week, but most of the time it's weekly. There's always something posted on there. And also I have free music. I have a whole bunch of things. And also you can email me. You can email me from there, or you can just email me at john@biblicaltrumpets.org. Remember, my friends, we are not rock stars. We are servants. See you next week. Next time on the Monday Morning Worship Leader, 43 folders. How can having just 43 folders, very handy, might I add, be a production makeover for your worship ministry? Well, that's next time on the Monday Morning Worship Leader.